Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be covering the crazy item build that is GRIMSTROKE Ags. This Ags is one of the most insane Ags in the game. If you don't know what it does, it makes it where GRIMSTROKE can create an illusion of any hero on the enemy team, or two if they're soul-binded, and then that illusion does 150% of that hero's damage. 150%. It does more damage than the hero. We're going to take a look at how good this actually is on a position 4 GRIMSTROKE replay, and I'm going to do a draft analysis of this game between Team Scorpion and Ragdoll. So if you want to watch a draft analysis, I'm going to start with that. If you don't, you can skip ahead to the replay analysis. By the way guys, if you want to become absolutely broken, well, what you need to do is sign up to the GameLeap website down below right now. The reason why you should do that is because every single day we post a new video there. Content that you simply just will never get on YouTube, we post every single day to the website. It's really top tier stuff. I'm very proud of what I make over there. We also have other creators, many of my great friends who are top tier Dota players, creating guides about different heroes, different roles, different items, skill builds, talent builds, everything you need to know to get to the next rank. So if you feel a little bit lost, you're a little bit stuck, click the link down below. I'll see you guys there. And now let's get into the video. Alright, let's get into the draft analysis. So, starting off, we had a first pick Spirit Breaker. This is something that's very common right now, can be flexed as a support or as an offlaner, so it keeps your draft open. In response to that, from Team Scorpion, we see a Willow Mars. These are two heroes that I don't think they're necessarily picking in response to Spirit Breaker. However, they are actually good against Spirit Breaker. The main reason why you pick Willow Mars is honestly just for a very dominant offlane, good teamfight, good pickoff, just a very well-rounded duo of heroes. But Willow rushes Yules, so it's good against Spirit Breaker. Bramble's Maze makes it hard for this guy to charge, right? You can purge the Bulldoze, as I mentioned earlier, and when you're getting charged, you can press your W, and then he can't follow up with ulti, so it's kind of hard to burst you in that case. So I like that matchup. And Mars is a good way to cancel charge, and you can't charge through Arena. So a lot of good matchups here against the Spirit Breaker. Definitely think this is a good response pick from Team Scorpion. After that, we see a GRIMSTROKE pick. Not what I necessarily think is, once again, too hard of a response pick to the Mars or the Willow. I think this is mostly them just picking the Spirit Breaker GRIMSTROKE combo. You swell the Spirit Breaker, he goes in, you kill them. And in general, these heroes work well together. GRIMSTROKE really needs to stay in the back and play with a +1. Spirit Breaker also needs to play with a +1 and goes in the front. After that, we see a Wraith King pickup from Team Scorpion. I will say that if the GRIMSTROKE ever does get Ags, Wraith King is one of the best ones you can get, and reason why is the Ags from GRIMSTROKE can get the crit from Wraith King, so you unironically can nearly one-shot the Dark Willow with the Dark Portrait. Like, anytime I'm playing against Wraith King, I love trying to get a GRIMSTROKE with an Ags. It's incredibly good, so I don't think this is them really caring about that. You usually wouldn't worry too much about that late of a timing on what's most likely a support hero. You know what I mean? You're not going to necessarily draft around that most games unless it's that broken, which I think the GRIMSTROKE Ags is good, but it's not that busted. It's busted, but it's not that busted. So we see the Wraith King pick. Honestly, just one of the most popular carries right now as an early carry pick. Good laning stage. It just kind of works well with most team comps. It doesn't have that many like clear flaws, so it's pretty hard to counterpick in my opinion. After that, we see a Jug pick come out from Ragdoll. Definitely a pick that's not something you see every day right now. However, I can understand why they pick it. The hero is inherently good against Mars. Jug really loves buying an early stick in the lane. That's incredibly good against Mars Willow. You get infinite charges. And Spin destroys Mars. Omni Slash is actually very bad against Mars, so you have to be careful. It's also bad against Willow, and it's like mediocre against Wraith King. So I suspect the way this Jug's going to be playing is trying to hit a timing where he can just right-click, in which case you're actually pretty good against Mars, Willow, and Wraith King, because none of these three heroes can really burst you. You can spin away from most of these disables. Willow and Mars' disables are a little bit slow, so the instant spin from Jug is good. And I actually like the Lich pick quite a bit here. You get the Lich combo, one we haven't seen in a while, man. I'd never see the Chain Frost plus the Soulbind. As much of it is, like, it's kind of a meme, but it's not. It's a little bit hard to use because it requires two supports to be, like, close to two heroes that are close together, which doesn't happen too much in the pro scene, at least not as much as you would, like, want, obviously. But the main reason why I like it is Jug Lich is incredibly good against Willow Mars. Incredibly good. at least from what I've seen. And the reason why is both of these heroes are susceptible to magical damage, right? They're kind of like good against physical because Willow can kind of get away with her W. Mars has Bulwark. He also just pushes away people who are trying to do physical damage to him with Spear and Rebuke. But the Spin plus Lich combo, neither of these heroes have an answer. Usually they can kind of get away from most spell combos. You can't really get away from Spin Frost Shield, right? So it's a good lane there as well. I definitely like this pick. And the Wraith King, whoever he jumps on, you Frost Shield, and it's actually a really good answer. It definitely prevents him from critting them. The only problem is he's burst damage, and sometimes it's hard to react with Lich, so I wouldn't say that this is like necessarily that great of a response pick. Even though it makes sense on paper, I feel like the way it plays out in game isn't really that great for the most part. So I wouldn't really necessarily look at this as a response pick, because Wraith King, if he gets on top of the Lich before Lich sees him, he'll just one-shot the Lich, and then it's like, okay. Then we see the Oracle pick. Definitely a cool one. I can totally get behind this, because basically Ragdoll is all magical damage right now. So if you put Fate's Edict on any of your cores, or any hero for that matter, they're not going to take any damage in the early game. Like, literally basically 0. And on top of that, the Purge is so freaking good this game. You purge Bulldoze, you purge Grimstroke Inkswell, you purge Frost Shield. It makes so much sense. The only issue with it, in my opinion, is this hero can be a little bit meh against Spirit Breaker. Just like getting charged, it's just, yeah, it's kind of rough. Often you're gonna die from full HP, especially if he's Inkswelled. You know, you might be like, oh, just purge it, sweet. It's like, yeah? What if he's coming through the trees and you don't see him? What if it's nighttime? You know, like, how does that play out? How does that work out? I don't know, man. It's a little bit risky, so I get why they pick it. I think if they can play around vision and keep this Oracle safe, he'll have a very high impact this game. So I definitely can get behind the pick. Finally, we see a Leshrac pick, kind of doubling down on this magical damage. Honestly, I didn't really fully understand why they picked this. I think it's like so they have some sort of tower damage in the early game, because Jug doesn't really do any tower damage. This lets them take objectives, kind of like force the issue. Because like these heroes can fight like pretty consistently early game. They don't really have major cooldowns. Even Chain Frost is pretty low. So Lesh can help them force the issue. I don't necessarily like love Lesh against Wraith King. I feel like this matchup is not great. But to be fair, Lesh can go like Hood this game, and I think that's like a pretty nice build early game before Wraith King actually does anything. If you go like Hood and you just run around, you can really have a high impact. I'm not actually sure what he buys this game. We'll see it in the replay analysis, even though we're gonna mostly focus on the Grimstroke. We'll see it in the replay analysis. And finally, we see the Invoker pick. I like this one a lot. Once again, the Purge, even though they have 2 Purges now, I think that's fine because of how much there is to purge this game. Once again, the Tornado against Spirit Breaker, against the Grimstroke, against the Lich. I think it also is incredibly good against Lesh in the lane. If it's Wex Invoker, which I'm assuming it is, it's so annoying for Leshrac. You can't really get out of the way of the Cold Snap EMP combo. You don't have a Blink, you don't have a Phase Shift, you don't have an Astral, something that can, you know, get you out. So you're gonna get hit by it, and Leshrac has a very fragile mana pool. He casts so many spells, literally has 4 active spells, so it becomes a big issue for the Leshrac. So I definitely like this pick. And yeah, that's going to be all for the draft analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Obviously, there's a ton more things we could talk about and theorize within this draft. There's so many layers to drafting, but I wanted to give a pretty solid baseline, a couple of good ideas to think about. And now let's get into the Grimstroke gameplay. All right, let's do a brief rundown of the first 5 minutes of the game. I'm only going to cover a couple of key points because honestly, he doesn't do that much, but that's the importance. Grimstroke has really bad movement speed. He has really bad base damage. He has bad attack range. So you might be thinking to yourself, what is he good at? Well, his armor is okay. Nah, but what he's good at is securing range creeps. And you can see he's just sitting in the trees, hitting the Oracle, basically just making sure that the offlaner, his Spirit Breaker, can't just get punched 24/7. And honestly, that's just your main job in the lane. Like, don't make it complex, guys. Don't go out of your way to try to like own people with Inkswell, and like just take your nuke at level 1, right? Take Stroke of Fate, secure the range creep, and auto attack people from a defensive position. Don't go in the open and 50-50. It is shit. It's shit. It's shit. Don't do it. It's not going to work, all right? He blocks the pole camp. You can see he's just doing the things that allow Spirit Breaker to have a solid lane. You don't own the lane at level 1 as Grim. You don't own the lane almost ever at level 2 either. He's contesting denies, securing the range creep, stealing all of his offlaner CS, which inevitably will make them run down mid. This is very important. Try to tilt your offlaner. No, I'm kidding. But you get the point, right? He's just allowing the Spirit Breaker to consistently stay in position, and that's honestly about it. Moving ahead from there, at around the 5-minute mark, he goes for his first stacks of the game. I would like to note that he actually doesn't stack Ancients this game, and I think Leshrac is a hero that can kill Ancients, but it's honestly quite slow and inconvenient. So he is only stacking the large camp. I think this is something that a lot of players just don't do. They don't look at their heroes and say, oh, who can do what? For instance, his Juggernaut went for a Phase Boots Maelstrom build this game, so he doesn't have a good way to kill Ancients. And this is why it's important to check your carry's items and just kind of understand what your carry is doing in general. Literally, dude, I've seen Position 4s just grief the game because they have like a PL on their team who is having like a mediocre game and needs to just like kill the Ancient camp, but it's quad stacked. And he can't farm it at all. It's like, oh, good. I guess my PL has to like not farm or something. Just think about it, guys. Make sure you're careful about that. And finally, I'd like to talk about his last rotation before we move on to the mid to late game. I think this is a good one. It's 533, gets a really nice D ward in the hill. I actually don't know how he knew that was coming. Maybe just replay watching or something. I have no idea. But after he D-wards that, he's going to shift over and contest the power runes. I like the ward he puts down here. Unfortunately, got scouted out by that hill ward. But the reason why I like this ward is because if Oracle was going to shift in to contest this power rune on the top, it's very likely they'd be able to get a kill off of it. So in like the pro meta, this is pretty common, right? You try to scout out supports and cores rotating in for the power runes and then counter gank them. And that's exactly what we see here. The Lesh is going to go for the top rune. Unfortunately, he doesn't get it. What can you do? But all in all, he contests the rune's end because Oracle dewards that Observer ward. That gives him the information to say, okay, my Spirit Breaker is a lone top with this Wraith King. This Wraith King's really far up. I have my Inkswell level 2 power spike. Right? If you don't know why it's a power spike, Inkswell, the stun duration nearly doubles, the damage doubles. So it's a very significant increase, and they're able to pick up a kill, big kill, onto the Wraith King. Even skills up his silence during that engagement, allowing them to finish him off. And yeah, he gets a 6-minute Arcane Boots, which is an extremely good timing and very convenient for the Spirit Breaker, who lacks a lot of mana. So all in all, I really like his gameplay this game. It was very conservative, it was not unaggressive, and I like that because if you try to play too aggressive into something like a Wraith King with a hero that doesn't directly address skeletons, like yes, they have Stroke of Fate, and yes, they have Charge, but the skeletons respawn, and then you have to commit 2 spells just to kill the skeletons. So he doesn't go over aggressive, doesn't burn mana. He makes stacks, secures his Leshrac a good game with the stacks and the power rune secure. Unfortunately, I didn't get the rune, but you get the point. And then, you know, eventually goes back and gets the Spirit Breaker a kill based on some good information. It wasn't random, good information. Honestly, from here on out, he spends the next 20-minute farming. Like, unironically, he literally spends like 15 to 20 minutes pushing in the dead lanes. Like, you think I'm kidding? I'm not going to show it to you guys because I want to move on to the Ags team fights. But unironically, if it is a good Ags game, they have a PL, they have a Dusa, a Luna, a Morph. Please put a priority on this Ags. It is going to pay off when you hit the timing, and let's get into those fights. All right, let's get into this Ags timing because my god, it's so disturbing how much it can do if used properly. It does require a little bit of micro, but let's get into the numbers real quick. It's a 25-second duration with a 35-second cooldown, which means if it doesn't die early, which often it does, but if it doesn't die early, it only has a 10-second downtime. 10 seconds, guys. 10 seconds. That's like Lion Earth Spike cooldown. It's nothing. So let's look at this team fight and see the impact. The Wraith King in a moment here is going to run in. Lich gets off a really good pull, and he gets off the Inkswell and the Illusion. And this is basically what you always do. You always want to stay in the back, hide. Honestly, his positioning there was pretty sus. If the Wraith King got off a clean jump, this would have been a disaster fight. So good reaction from the Lich. But he gets off his Illusion. Now, the Illusion's about to die. This seems like, oh, he should just throw it away. It's low HP. No. Most supports can't man up to even this, because this Illusion gets the lifesteal and gets the crit. So, you're going to see what he does. He's going to microwave onto the Willow. Willow starts trying to kill it. Willow uses Bedlam, but joke's on you, it's spell immune. Yes, it's spell immune. Does it even say it? Yes, it does. The Illusion is spell immune. It's spell immune. Willow's like trying to kill this thing. Willow quickly realizes, I can't. She wastes her W, her Bedlam, and a lot of time. Even Wraith King's like, oh, I gotta kill this thing. It's gonna kill my backline. He does a great job of kiting it out. You can see the micro here is impeccable. I will say that his positioning, you know, the only problem with it, and, you know, which is why you have to practice if you're gonna do this, is because he puts so much of a focus on it that he kind of doesn't cast any of his other spells. Which, like, to be fair, in this case, if you see how the fight's going, that's honestly okay. There wasn't really much to cast. maybe a silence on the Mars, but I don't think that would have changed much. So overall, you need to try to do both. In general, the best course of action is to just make the illusion auto attack the backline. If it's not a, mega high tier MMR game like this is, where most of the players are, known players, people aren't going to go kill it. Like, a Wraith King is not going to try to kill the illusion. He's not going to know the strength, or at least he's not going to respect the strength or have the awareness to even do it. So you just put it on a backline support and it takes him out of the fight. And that's exactly what happens. The Willow gets completely kicked out of this fight. The backline basically has to only address the illusion, and the fight keeps going from there. So the illusion dies by now, but now he still has all of his other spells, gets off a really nice soulbind. He can, eventually silence and eventually ink spell. Honestly, I think he was a little bit slow with his spellcasting here. I definitely think he should be nuking and silencing anything, frankly. It could be on the Oracle, it could be on the Invoker. Either way, makes another Wraith King copy, another one, 2 in one fight of this copy that unironically can one-shot the supports, puts the ink spell on it, which means it's running at like 500 movement speed because Inkspell buffs movement speed, and then BAP! The Invoker dies. Oh my god. Gets the silence off onto the Mars, another Inkspell to follow, and this is why Grimstroke has the potential to be one of the most dominant supports in the game, especially at this timing. It really is that strong if you get to this point in the game. The problem is it requires quite a bit of micro, quite a bit of spellcasting, but if you can get there, my god. Next up, we're gonna see a really funny clip. This happens all the time, man. Like, literally, dude. People will realize their illusion is just dominating. If they don't, whatever, you just kill them all. If they do, like, this situation happens all the time. The Grimstroke shows, like, even slightly, and he makes the really good reaction here of when he's getting gone on to not panic and just get his spells off. So he gets his Dark Portrait off. He probably could have gotten the silence off, but it wouldn't have done anything. Either way, he gets his portrait off and once again values the life of the portrait, kites it out. You don't want to feed it away. Bad players will just man up with it and feed it away. Don't do that. You should treat it as if it's a hero that doesn't want to die, right? It's a really long duration. Respect the duration. Now, when the Wraith King is manning up and hitting the jug, he's going to use it. Once he realizes that, oh, the Wraith King is actually going to try to kill my illusion, he kites it out and once again goes on the Wraith King. And now the Wraith King is a little bit out of position with no BKB. And honestly, kind of makes sense why this happens. Yes, it's obviously way too far from the Wraith King, but he's human. We're human. When we think something is just owning our team, we're going to try to address it. And sometimes that means going way too far out of position. All right, and that's going to be all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this Grimstroke's Ags replay analysis. Let me know in the comments section down below what I should do next. Also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put those in the comment section down below. I'll try to reply to as many as possible. But yeah, let me know what you want to see next. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
And that's all. But remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below and I'm out. Peace.